I think there's something very magical about photography. You can make things happen that cannot happen in real life. To transcend something very simple into something very meaningful.
My work has always come from empathy and love. I can't photograph anyone that I think is ugly or disturbs me or out of anger. I photograph out of love and out of wanting to touch someone in a way, in some way. So I only photograph people who touch me, you know.
It was apparent to me that photographers such as Nan Golding and Bruce Gilden rely on how people's identities affect them when they are documenting photographs. It is the importance of what the subject's identity means to them and how it makes them feel. I spoke to a local photographer from Manchester to ask what photography means to him and how he portrays identities through his photos.
You're around people, a lot of different people from different backgrounds and stuff. So you kind of you learn a lot about people just being a young teenager out in the cities. You're out and you're very aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
You're looking for spots or whatever we would do. And then I just started taking photos of my friends in those situations because I thought this is something different that I was really into at the time.
Yeah.
Just sort of documenting my friends and people that I knew and people that I'd meet in those kind of social situations or whatever. And then from that I got more and more into photography and started looking at different sort of areas of photography, documentary stuff, people like Stephen Shaw and Joel Mayowitz and William Eggleston, and then later photographers like Nan Goldin and Larry Clark. They're two really big photographers that have influenced the sort of stuff that I look at and the way that I take pictures, because they photograph real people. There's a sense of reality in the pictures. I don't know. I guess the first thing that draws me to someone who I would want to photograph is what they're wearing, because I feel the way that someone dresses is the richest form of expression. So the way that someone's dressed can it's just a very expressive sort of medium. The thing is about portraiture and not even just in photography but in just art in general, it's there's a three-way sort of thing that happens when you take a portrait. So there's your idea of how you want the subject to look. The photographer has his he's in control, do you know what I mean? He can he decides how that person looks to an extent, do you know what I mean? How he wants to portray them is going to come across.
Yeah.
And then the sitter has an idea of how they want to be portrayed. Yeah, so they when you're having your picture taken, you kind of in your head you have a rough idea of how you want it to look.
Yeah.
You've got an idealistic view of how you want to look in the picture.
Yeah. That's so true.
And then the photographer can overpower that. I think the relationship between the photographer and the sitter as well is well important. Obviously if you're being photographed by someone you've never met before and you're not used to being photographed, you're going to come across a lot differently to if a good friend was taking a picture of you. When you're taking a portrait, there's photographers like Larry Clark and people like that. Jürgen Teller's another massive one who's really in terms of not even just portraiture but just general photography. I feel like he puts himself into his photos, like, and it's really like not obvious, but you can see it. Do you know what I mean? It is like obviously a Jürgen Teller photograph, because his relationship with his like models is he seems to really like put people at ease and kind of the situations that he shoots people in are like kind of like a bit stupid sometimes, so it's it gives it a bit of like a innocent, like light-hearted.
It was clear to me Jacob's love for photography, as he explained, it was his way of relating to the world out there, digesting and processing it, and coming up with photographs to show the contradictions of life.
You don't always have to know what you're doing when you're doing it. It's all unpredictable. As a photographer, I don't want to look at people as objects. I sort of want to find other entry points to making photographs that bridge a relationship that's different not only between me and the photographed person, you could say, or the subject, but also the public or the person who is not in the photograph. When I think about the work of Prince Street Girls, of course, I'm on the street. They are also random encounters, chance, not planned, not intended. I meet them on the street over a long period of time, multiple years, from the age of maybe some of them were 8 or 10 to into their teens, later teens. There was a lot of hanging around doorways, sometimes individually, sometimes in small groups. But then I also went with them to the beach, or I would get on the subway and we'd head somewhere else. So I was following them as well as finding them just in odd moments of their own lives. Not really thinking about what's so obvious to look back on now is how very, very slowly they were shifting their sense of self, their projection of self, their posing of their selves one to the other. So I'm looking at all of that, I'm absorbing all of that. I'm sort of assimilating into the little world that they're creating.
Photography has always been used as a tool for the exploration of society. It can be used to produce objective yet subjective photographs of people as a vital way of bearing witness to certain events, cultures, and even people's way of life. It's clear that through documentary-style photography, we can portray people's identities in a creative way and their cultural identities to gain a perception of reality. We are constantly defining and refining ours and other people's identities. However, that part of someone's identity, which we visualise in photographs, can be interpreted differently, and from this we can learn the different aspects of a subject. It relates to sociology due to the culture that shapes our identity, which is then represented through photographs.
They fuck you up, your mom and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra, just for you. But they were fucked up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time were soppy stern and half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out as early as you can, and don't have any kids yourself.